Huh.
Alright guys, this is another series that I've got one video up so far on. It's rebuilding this old violin, and I'm getting to a point where I need some spool clamps to clamp the side, front and back sides together. So what I'm going to do is just a real quick little thing here on spool clamps, and it seems like they're all over the place on YouTube. So I'm going to record a little bit of it. I'm not going to try to get really in depth. It's a pretty simple process. So I'm going to set the camera back up. But before I do that, so I've got 1/4 inch bolts that are 7 inches long, carriage bolts with a washer and a wing nut. I've got cork, and I've got closet rod that I'm going to cut 1 inch chunks, and I'm going to be making 12 of these. So I'm just going to set you up on the cut on the bandsaw. I decided to use the bandsaw for the cut, for cutting the dowels, rather than table saw or cut them by hand or whatever. I think the bandsaw will peel them off. They're pretty clean, and I'm going to demonstrate what I'm doing there. I'm going to rotate them as I cut the outside edge. So rather than go straight through the dowel and have splintering on the backside, I'm going to rotate the dowel into the cut so that we basically score all the way around the dowel before going all the way through. So it should eliminate that splintering. So I just wanted to show you that. That's mainly it. Then I'll set up a little corner guide on my drill press for punching the holes in the center of the dowels. So I'm making 12 clamps. I'm going to have 24 holes to drill, so it'll be worth the time to set up a little jig so I don't have to center each one of those. So anyway, let's get going. Okay, so I'm not going to run the dust collector for the first couple of these, and just so you see what's going on here. So as I go into the blade, I'm actually going to roll into the blade a little bit, which is like climb cutting with a router. So you have to kind of hold on to things. I've got a good grip on the thing on this end, and I'm just going to rotate into it. Probably cut, you can see the line here just rubbing the teeth. Probably just cut score a 1/16 of an inch deep or whatever. And at that point, then I'll go ahead and push through. You can see I have the guide here for my 1 inch depth. So let's go ahead and roll it. There's a problem. So as you can see, I had a little bit of problem keeping the dowel square to the fence. So I don't know what I'm going to do to accomplish that other than just concentrate more. Let's try it again. That was a lot cleaner and a lot more square. One more. not so much. So that's the basic idea. I just have to do that a bunch more times. All right, hello. I got 24 of these little round things, spools cut. I've set a square up on my sander. Well, I clamped a square stop on my sander. This is my brick fence. So squared it to the front of the disc, which is almost square to the front of the table, but not quite. So I checked it against the disc. That's where we want to square at. So this corner going right in here is going to give me a square face. Try to hold it so you can see what's going on. So right there. So that's just going to support it square here, perpendicular to the face of the sander. So what I'm just going to do is, as you can see, see both sides. That side's relatively flat. That side's got a ridge on it where I scored it with the blade. And just to back up a little bit, I actually did. I ended up clamping a board onto the table, the bandsaw, so that I started getting squarer cuts. Okay, now these are 1 inch long. If they ended up 3/4 of an inch long, that would be long enough. I'm not going to sand that much off of these things, so they'll probably be about 7/8 or maybe even just a skosh under. Yeah, I got about a 32nd of a ridge right there. So if I clean them up totally perfect, then I'll probably be down in the 7/8 range. So I'm going to turn the sound off and play some music and show you a couple of these because this is really noisy. So. So we got, I just sanded 3 of those as you saw, and I measured them, and so apparently my saw was cutting a little strong at 1 inch, and because 2 of them came out exactly 1 inch. The one that had the 32nd or 64th of a ridge on it actually is not even, at 15/16. So we're really holding strong at right around an inch. That's fine. So I'm going to sand the rest of these, and I'll bring you back in when I set the drill press up. And I'm just going to make some kind of little 90 catch that I can center under the bit, and then just push each one in and punch it without having to measure them. So there'll just be a little 90-degree block. Oh, I'm not in the camera. Little 90-degree. I'm still. There we go. Little block like that, just 90 degrees. That'll catch that, capture it. I'll show you. So I'll bring you back in then. All right. So I got all these little guys sanded, and so both the top and the bottom are parallel, which is what I wanted, so that when I stuck them in the drill, they'd be drilling through the spools, you know, parallel with the sides. If I left the cuts a little off, obviously it'd be sitting in there kind of sideways, and then the holes wouldn't be going through the centers, you know, straight through. So anyway, you'd have clamps that had faces coming to each other that were cockeyed. So it's difficult if you don't have a centering jig, which you can buy from most any woodworking catalog online. It's typically a little V-shaped plastic thing that has a line out of it, and you just stick the dowel on one side and tap it, and it gives you a line, and then you just spin it and it'll give you a line, because it self-centers off the bottom of it. Anyway, I don't have one, so I just happened to have this piece of particle board laying around the shop, and I don't even know what I had it for, but it just had I was looking for something to cut a 90-degree cut in, and it just happened to have one. So what I did was I just brought the tip of this brad point bit down, and then I just rotated the block or the spool, right? And so what's happening is I'm outlining a circle here that isn't the center of the dowel, but it is a circle pattern that I'm weaving. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, if I can find the camera, maybe. Yeah, you can see it, sort of. So now, all I'm going to do is put myself a center mark there, and pretty much just going to center it with this drill bit. Now this is, I mean, seriously, this is going to be close enough to center. Except I can't see over here. I'm trying to keep the light from pointing right at this thing so that the camera doesn't get all glary. So now I got a pencil mark on it. There we go. So I have center now. And so I poke center right on that brad point. And then bring this down. So I'm holding my block where I want it, or my piece, and then I'm just going to alright, I think there's my head, no, my big hairy arm's in there. Okay, so that's pretty good right to where it's at. I'm on something down here. Yep, on something. And it actually is coming down in the same spot every time, so we're good. Look like it's coming down in the same spot. Let me take a closer look. Good, so I'm going to clamp the other side of this. Now what I'm going to try to figure out, because I don't like the idea of me trying to hold this while I'm drilling a hole with my thumb. I got a feeling that that's going to want to spin that thing. The other places I was using power tools, right, I had the bandsaw. Blade is pushing down against the table, and so you got control of it. The sander, I had two surfaces. you know, the table in a square here to hold it, so as the sander's coming around, it's pushing it down against the table, so it's not hard to hold on to. This is going to be another story. Yes, I'm going to think about that. I've already thought about drilling a hole right here, and then putting a dowel or some kind of rod there that I can just use as a lever fulcrum against that hole, and then apply more pressure that way. That way, I don't have to have my thumb right here. If something slips, you know, I'm going to be into that. So I'm gonna think about that a little bit, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I solved my clamp problem. This is the next day, by the way, or the next evening actually. And but I figured this out last night, and I started punching holes in here, and it was holding fine, but I had a brad point bit. Actually, I was trying to counterbore. Let me show you what was really going on here. I have these 5/16 bit that it's got like a little extra wave on it. I'm not sure what you call those, and they might be grade in metal, but trying to just do a little counterbore in that, so that when I put the carriage bolt through, it'll catch the corners in there. Long story short, it was just wanting, it hit a piece of grain and it would just jerk over and drill where it wanted to. The bit was actually tweaking, so I don't like that bit. And I'm hoping that this 1/4 inch, this is a 1/4 inch bit that just has the pre-drill, like an 1/8 inch, you know, counter drill going in before the 1/4 inch drill. So hopefully that'll actually track a little straighter. Because even the 1/4 ones I drilled 1/4 inch wandered from where they went in the front to where they came out the back. They didn't come out completely centered. So these things, I mean, it's a spool clamp. I might try not to get that anal, but I can't help myself sometimes. So anyway, the clamping device, I can just hold that right on there. Just obviously cut a circle. And it's a little jagged from the bandsaw, and I think that's actually helping. And then it's long enough for me. You can't see it, but if I get my chest here in the way, I can actually hold it down, push my chest into it, and then pull the handle down. And so I get it clamps rather effectively. And that's the idea, is that I can do this without having a bunch of rigmarole. Now, by the time I got all this set up, maybe I should have just used my drill press vise, but I didn't want to do that. So redo it the hard way, the slow way, whatever. Now, I didn't change any of my setup at all, because it wasn't looking very centered with the brad point. But and I don't know if you can be able to see. Probably depends on which way I hold the thing and to the angle and all that kind of stuff. But it's really very centered. So it didn't wander, and I think it's just because of the type of bit it is. So I'm happier now. So here we go again. You can actually see that bit pull a little bit. I don't know if you can see it from the angle that you were seeing it, but from my angle it actually tweaks the bit over a little bit as I went in. Yeah, weird. Yeah, so, yeah, and that one's not centered. You can see that. It's not centered, obviously, right? more space on top than on the bottom. But I saw that bit actually tweak over as I hit that. So it probably doesn't help that I'm using super dry dowel here. Well, I'm just going to punch them, and if some of them are a little off center, so be it, because I got to get moving along here, and I'll bring you back in. The exciting part, cutting cork. So we've got a pile of little spools here and some gasket, 1/8 inch cork gasket material. I've got a big enough roll to last my lifetime easily. Unless I figure out some kind of project that I need a lot of cork on. So what I'm going to do is just lay a section of this out, circle a bunch of those dowels, and then spray glue them onto the face, one face of each dowel. And so let's go down here. It's rolled quite tight. So it's going to be your, look at this thing. This is 3 feet long, 12 inches high, 3 feet long. So, yeah, definitely going to have this a while. And so this is what I'm going to do. I thought about just spraying a section and then spraying a bunch of dowels and then sticking them down and then coming back in and razor blading around them, or even razor blading around them at this point. I think it'll be cleaner just to cut with a pair of scissors. Whether or not I actually get a nice clean edge, that's what I'm shooting for. I just hate seeing raggedy cork hanging off of the edge of blocks. And there again, that's just an OCD thing. So I'm not even going to film any more of this because it's just as tedious as I gotta stop taking naps when I get home from work. As tedious as this is, I can imagine it's even more so to observe. So, having said that, I'm gonna let you off the hook here and just cut all these out and get them glued on. So, as you know, I've been gluing and sticking corks on here. And so I did all the dowels, or I did 12 of the dowels first. And they're dry because they're sucked right into that wood. And they're supposed to tack off like that. So I'm waiting for these pieces of cork that I did most recently to dry up a little more before I stick them on here. Contact cement. I think I said something about using spray cement in a previous little bit. I decided to do the brush on. I just thought that would be a lot less mess overall concerned here. So if I did the dowels, if I spread the dowels, I'd have to pop them through a hole in a piece of cardboard or something, spray them so that I didn't get overspray. I don't want to sand a bunch of crud off. Same thing here. If I sprayed the sheet first and then just stuck all the dowels on and then trimmed around them, that would work, but individually, trying to spray something like that, it'd probably just blow it away. So, all right, so I finished clamping those, not clamping them, I finished gluing the cork on the spools. Excuse me. And so, thought it would be good just to put a little pressure on them and hold them like that. Although it's contact cement, it's probably not necessary in the strictest sense, but I got 24 of these things all clamped up now, and we'll just let them sit overnight, and then I'll clean them up tomorrow. So wrap up on the little spool clamps here. We got a set of 12 of these things. So and I made them big enough, at least I tried to, that I've got 4 1/4 at least clear, and that can be changed just by going to longer carriage bolts. 4 5/16. Well, so it's gonna be about 3/8 by the time you all the way to the end of the thread. 3/8. Obviously, that's wider than I'm going to need for this violin, bigger, but you can make them smaller easy enough, right? And I didn't want to make up sets for, that fits this and then a set that fits guitars or whatever, so I just made them big, longer. All right, so there you go, 12. The other thing I might mention is that as hard as I tried to get everything just centered and perfect and go through the spools, that didn't work out every time. The ones that did work out kind of crooked or not meeting each other square on, that one's just off center, but it's square. See, I got some here. Here's one. So that's not, the face of these aren't meeting perpendicular, but if you rotate the spool a little bit, they do come around to where they actually meet each other. So there is a square face on these eventually, like that one. It's a little off, but then when you rotate it, it's square to itself. So close enough for what I'm doing here. Yeah, and I don't know, all told, I don't even think I've got a couple hours into it. You know, so I was finding them on Amazon. Gosh, I think they were, forget how, I'm not sure if it was 6 or 12 in a set, but it was around $30 for either 6 or 12 of them. So I saved myself $30. You know, this is just I had $5 in hardware, so saved myself $25. Anyway, yeah. So now I can go ahead and get back working on the violin, finish taking it apart, and then we'll get some video getting that glued back together. See you guys.